Good evening. I'm posting a very late video because my girls made a crazy mess. I had them clean up once and they did okay clearing the floor. And then they just ruined it. I think not 10 minutes later. And then after dinner was worse. It was a late dinner today. So I am posting a late video, but I wanted to get this content out. Now, I was gonna say if you know me at all, but I literally am and excuse me, my brain is half asleep right now. I literally am in hermit mode. So I'm not around a lot of people. I don't have a lot of interactions with people right now. Minimal, very minimal with my family member whom I live with. I just interact with my girls most of the time, things like that. So, nobody knows me right now, basically. I'm just kidding. But no, so ever since I was a kid, ever since I was a kid, I was sensitive to, I would say, people's energy. Specifically when it comes to someone who could be a possible predator to a child, I would say. Now, this did not account for children because children can be predators as well. But this was more like about adults kind of thing. There's been several times where I would speak up. Even one time, I grew up in this church, Caucasian church. We were like the token black family, you know, the church charity basically. But that's a whole nother conversation. But anyway, I was on what we called mission trips. And this one was in Chicago. We went to a mission trip in Chicago. And I remember there was we went there to assist a church to do outreach ministry. So we went to this church because I grew up in Ohio. Okay. So when we went to, but my youth pastor, he went to Moody Bible Radio. No, excuse me. Moody Radio, Moody Bible Institute, excuse me. He went to Moody Bible Institute. So he had, I guess, he know people there and he had connections there. And so the church was in Chicago. And so we went to Chicago to do the mission work and we partnered with this church and we helped them do outreach in their community, right? So there was this church and I remember seeing this girl. She's a black girl. She reminded me of myself, chubby, beautiful, dark-skinned, chubby little black girl. And so she was like around the age 8. That's what she looked like, around age 8. And she was sitting on the lap of a church member, a middle-aged white man. And they were saying how her behavior had changed, like the next day kind of thing. And I was observing them as a teenager, because I was a teenager at this point, okay, in high school. And I was observing this old man and this child who was not connected to her. Even, family titles mean nothing, actually, when it comes to inappropriate, right? But anyway, I was observing them and I jumped into the conversation. Now, I had, what is it? Existential crisis. No, I don't know if that's the word, but I want to say existential. That's not the word, but you know what I'm saying. I had, for a very long time as a kid, middle school, high school, I did not talk well. I did not communicate well, especially in environments where I did not feel comfortable. I talked a lot to my friends in high school and stuff like that, but when it comes to the church setting, I always felt out of place. I always felt uncomfortable. I never felt like I belonged. Or I had one friend in church. I won't speak on that because it's a bit sensitive. But she was mixed, and I believe she gravitated towards me because I was black. But we were best friends, right? Childhood friends. So that was my one friend in growing up in church, in that church. And I didn't talk to anyone. I had crushes and stuff, but they didn't pay me any attention. Probably for the best. But but anyway, so when I spoke up about it, I said, no, there's something not okay with that. You would think like they would value what I had to say, but unfortunately, the youth pastor just overlooked what I said and turned a blind eye. And I've always been, like I said, sensitive to situations like that, and weary of it as well. Even when I was a kid, just riding my bike up and down my grandma's street, this man approached me, a child. I was like 8 years old. And he's like, "Do you know what street this is?" My very first thinking, okay, as an 8-year-old child or around that age, was he's a mailman. His job is routes and streets. He should know what street he's on. And I immediately dropped my bike and ran inside. Right? I was like, I'm not talking to you. I'm not getting kidnapped today, okay? No. But for real, yeah, that was my first thinking. Like, dude, you're a mailman. You should know what street you're on. Okay. So yes. And then I waited. I can't remember like the amount of time I waited, but I was still anxious to ride my bike. So I peeked out and I see my younger brother and my aunt, my teenager aunt, laughing with him. And I'm just like, anyway, I would never change it. I would still do the same thing, and I would tell my child to do the same thing. Because, first of all, an adult should not be approaching a child like that, sincerely. Because at the time, it was almost like I was the only person out there. Okay? So, yes, there was that. So, anyway, and so, like I'm just saying these two instances of where I was sensitive, right, to that. But meanwhile, I grew up in a very toxic environment in terms of I had a very inappropriate, which I've talked about this before. I had very inappropriate interactions with my brothers and with my teenager aunt and with children of family friends. Okay. It could always be worse, right? There's many people out there that have been through a lot more than I have been through, or even my brothers. I believe my brothers have been through worse than what I've been through. I don't know to what extent because we don't talk. There was one time I tried to talk about it to my younger brother, and he talks to me like he's a bit more like aggressive, right? Like I'm not gonna say what I'm gonna say, but he talks in a kind of like an aggressive tone of voice, generally speaking. And he would talk to me. I haven't talked to him in years, but he would talk to me like as if I'm the younger sibling, right? But anyway, so this is on the phone, right? This conversation, I was like trying to bring it up, because I was working on healing from it. I had just recently, or I had talked to my ex about it at the time, who was my husband at the time, about it, and stuff like that. So I was in the mode of like, freeing myself from the shame and trauma and the shackles that it was holding on me, right? I was working on that. So, but he was like, I hope you ain't gonna talk about no weird shit. And I was like, okay, we're not ready. We're not ready. So, I do believe my brothers have been through worse than what I've been through, unfortunately. I don't know any details or the extent, but I believe, based off of research, I don't have the exact facts. I'll come correct next time. But it's been proven, I believe, that boys are actually molested more than girls, unfortunately. And that's another reason why I thank God that I believe I will have a son one day or two. But I believe the reason why God held off on sons for now which I'm blessed by my daughters, by the way. I am proud to have 3 beautiful daughters who I hope will be a triple threat in soccer one day. We'll see. But my middle child, she will definitely have to run track. The amount of spankings, which I don't spank my kids like that anyway, because with that child specifically, she likes that attention. She likes any attention, and she laughs at spankings. But the amount of spankings she has evaded because that girl is fast is impressive. But yes, so yeah, so I use timeouts mostly with her now, but even that, she just any opportunity she sneaks away. So anyway, that's a whole nother topic. But yeah, so I'm grateful for my beautiful daughters, smart, intelligent, funny. But I do hope to have 2 boys, right? With the right person, obviously. Yes. Lasting relationship is ideally, obviously. But I believe God held off on that because He knew what situation I would be in, and the family I grew up in, they didn't talk about inappropriate versus appropriate. That would have changed everything. I feel that would have changed everything. You know, there was adult supervision, but in those times where it mattered the most, there was no adult supervision, like playing down the basement or like just random moments where all the kids are alone and the older ones lead the younger ones, and it turns into inappropriate things, right? Being dared to. I was one time my aunt dared me to lick the private areas. She was into wrestling. I don't understand anyone who's into wrestling. I'm not judging, but I just don't get it. Okay, but anyway, she dared me to lick the private parts of the female wrestler, like the breast and the um, private areas. So she dared me to lick the female one, and she dared my younger brother to lick the male wrestling. So stuff like that. One time we were actually older, like middle school. I was in middle school, and it wasn't her, but me and her did it. We got dared to run down the street with our mooning, basically, uh, with our pants down. I think my brother dared us to do that. Yeah, so stuff like that. And I got dared one time to make out with a family friend's child, teenage boy, very hypersexual individual. And I actually spoke up to my family about that individual. But anyway, not for me, because that was, unsavory, obviously, inappropriate, and something I wish didn't happen. But for the sake of my brothers, okay. So anyway, so they didn't. He still was around whenever his parents were around, right? There was no attention to that. There was no understand. There was no supervision when it counted. There was no talks about appropriate versus inappropriate. There was another instance I had, which I just had this. I just remembered this memory. I live at my aunt's, right? And I've through my writing and things like that, my post, I have spoken about in different instances. I live at my aunt's where a lot of memories when I first came here washed over me. And every time before my ex was incarcerated, we had a trauma bond. And so every time we visited Ohio for family and holidays, I felt safe with him. I did. I was still anxious, but I could breathe. I could go to the restroom without worry. I didn't, at the time, pinpoint my anxious reaction to being around family. I didn't follow it to the source, right? I just knew that, okay, he's here, he's with me, we're safe, kind of thing. So that first night when I came here without him when he was incarcerated, I felt so naked. I felt so ashamed. I felt so scared. I just felt so unprotected because of so many memories I had. Um, and there's a time where there's like this behind my aunt's garage. There's this like little sidewalk place. I remember, I can't remember exactly what I did, but it was quite progressive, I guess, in the actions I took. I had a sexual encounter as a kid with some girl. I don't know. I think a neighborhood girl, and that was in the neighborhood or something like that. And I remember as we got into the area where we could see her windows, I remember seeing my aunt peek out. And so basically, she saw. And I remember the lack of communication, the lack of conversation. There was no conversation. There was no, you Jessiah, that's inappropriate. You're supposed to be out there playing, not having sexual encounters with people, And so same thing when I had another encounter in Beck, or in the home I grew up in during elementary, um, where I was actually the older one, and the kid was like a couple of years younger than me, and we had the motions of intercourse, but no intercourse. Okay, there was no intercourse, but there was the motions of it, and I guess his mom was privy to stuff like this, and so she was like, "Let's go check on him," because we were in like my closet in my room, and I think we were talking about like, we're pretending we're married or something like that. And they caught us. Yeah, they caught us in the act of trying the motions, going through the motions, but not really. Okay. But yeah, and he, my mom, like, I got in trouble. I think I got a spanking, but there was like no conversation. Yeah. Once again. And so through all the healing and shadow work I've done, I am fully aware that this is what I would say a generational uh, situation, something that happens each generation, this kind of thing. Um, Knowing that I'm very, I would say, proactive in talking to my daughters. Even I watch them amongst themselves because I know the tendencies that I had. You just need you just need a tiny bit of influence. That tiny bit of influence could be watching TV or even seeing a commercial of people kissing, right? Because we're all sexual beings. Even, I struggle with saying that because of creepers, but we're all sexual beings, right? So even children are sexual beings, but not in where they're practicing it, obviously, So, so you just need that little bit of influence, and then you're going to copy it, right? That's what children do. They absorb. They're sponges. They absorb, you know. So, and I very much proactive in asking them about, do they feel safe where they are and stuff like that. And also, when I see something inappropriate, because I've witnessed my daughters doing things that are inappropriate, I say, okay, no, thank you, that's inappropriate. Okay, we want to respect each other's boundaries. So I do have those conversations. But knowing myself, I also remember or remind myself to come in a calm way, to not just like react, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Oh my God. Like, not that. Okay. I've learned to calm it on down, right? Because that's part of the human journey. I am learning that, right? So I've come a long way. All glory to God, literally. All glory to God. But it still seems a lot of my family has not progressed, has not grown in that area of life. And there was a triggering moment today. I won't even say it because these people, like I said, they play nice, they go to church and stuff like that, but they don't really, I'll just say, if you can shut on and off love in a way that is beneficial for you, is that genuine? Is that genuine? That's all I'll say for that. If you see a child, your grandchild, your niece, nephew, whatever, if you see a child doing something inappropriate and you say nothing at all, and that child is sitting on you, and this is something that I've been witnessing since child, I start to think, what is your energy regarding this, right? Why would you not say anything? And this is not just one person. This is the tendency of a whole family. You understand? Yeah. So I'm really proud of myself today. And not to toot my own horn, but I got no friends. No, but seriously, I'm proud of myself today because I immediately got my daughter and I said, that's not appropriate. Go wash your hands. And I sat her on a chair next to my family member. And I didn't say anything. I just told my daughter, that's not appropriate. Go wash your hands, and you're going to sit here. She fussed a little bit, but then she was like, fine. She was looking at pictures on my family member's phone, okay? And there was a moment where you could obviously feel my energy is kind of intense at times, but I was keeping myself in check because I'm not confrontational. I don't like starting stuff. I don't like unnecessary negative interactions, right? But I will speak up. And I felt that was the best way to do it, just to address my daughter's behavior, right? And remind her that it's not appropriate, right? But my family member made angry eyes at me at one point. She was like, why are you looking at me like that? And I'm like, I'm not looking for trouble. I'm good. I remained very calm. I'm so proud of myself. No, because in the past, I have been reactive. Understandably so, to any person who understands healing and understands the toxicity of people who just turn a blind eye to things, right? But that's not the best way to handle it. So, in the situation that I'm in, that's why I made a previous post talking about no matter what living situation you are, I live rent free at my aunt's right now. I'm very. It feels like I have limited freedom, right? I don't have support to watch I don't trust anyone to watch my kids, so I'm always with them. I don't have very many breaks from that, and also I'm not currently working, so I have very limited income, which is zero. But the tax refund was really nice, But anyway, so I go to like food banks, food pantries, and things like that. I live a very basic life. I still feel very blessed and grateful because even in this humbling time, God has provided my every need. And I'm learning how to spend money more wisely too, like pay for car insurance and stuff like that, pay the full, 6 months kind of thing, stuff like that, right? Yeah. So anyway, even in my situation, I can still assert boundaries, healthy boundaries. I've had experiences when I first came here where people tried to walk all over my boundaries, and I was a bit more reactive back then. But I'm learning. to be assertive, to not back down, but also to not be confrontational. And I'm so grateful for these lessons because these are skills that can help me in any situation. And I need these. And I'm praying that my daughters will see this. I'm not a perfect mom. I do get tired. I am on my phone a lot and on screens a lot, especially now that I'm trying to build my social media and stuff. They watch TV more than I would ever like these days. And I have late dinners a lot, you know. But they're cooked though. But anyway, yeah, so like I said, I'm not a perfect mom, but I take every day to try and be the best version of myself and to always grow and improve, right? So I can never give up on these things. And I'm grateful that God has given me the ability to bounce back from awkward situations, or not awkward, but stressful situations, I'll say. And yeah, so I feel like almost like I'm in the belly of the beast when it comes to situations like this. And even in the belly of the beast, I do feel God's protection over me and my children. And even now, being awakened and living in that awareness is giving me more tools to protect myself and my children, and to talk to them to protect themselves, right? To be aware, even with their own selves, right? Like I said, children are, sexual beings, and that develops the older they get, obviously. We don't want to take a child's innocence away because there still is a sense of innocence to them, right? And even scripture talks about this, who causes a child to sin. It would be better if there was a millstone wrapped around their neck and thrown into the lake, the sea. So there's definitely standards, right? Now, that's why you see me doing, I don't know what people think. I can't waste energy wondering what people think of me, right? Like in terms of how open I am, how I talk about sensitive topics like this, or even how maybe walking away from a job that was actually starting to drain my finances, believe it or not. But anyway, another story. Walk away from 9-to-5 job and living humble lifestyle, like going to food pantries. I can't focus my energy on what do people think of me. I'm embarrassed, whatever. I don't want people to think I can't waste my energy on that. All I can do is do what I feel led to do and called to do. And I know that this topic is something that needs to be talked about more, because when we go through things as children, we think, oh, it's just us, right? No, it's not just us. So many people are having similar life experience, and we need to talk about it. We can't keep it inside, because that's how cycles get repeated from generation to generation. History repeats itself. We have to deal with it at the source. And so that's what I start to do with myself. And I know each one can teach one. We can all start having those hard conversations with ourselves and with our past and our history and our trauma and our shadow, working through it. You're not alone. You're not some person. All our experiences are different, right? In different in various ways. But knowing that this person went through a similar experience, just a little bit different, it's like kinder. It's a kindering feeling. You're a kindred spirit, right? You are not alone. And we can get through it, and we can heal, and we can empower ourselves as parents to heal our inner child and redeem our inner child by being by being the parent we needed to our own children, right? So anyway, this is a little bit of a long video, but I really felt triggered today, and I felt that trigger is something to speak on. But triggered in a good way, not triggered in like, oh my gosh, I'm really grateful how I handled the situation, because nobody can say, oh, she just, going off. No, I didn't go off at all. I just addressed my daughter, which is what I'm called to do as a parent, to guide my child to have the best version, a better life experience rather than I did. Nobody told me, Jessiah, don't do that. Jessiah, that's not appropriate. Don't kiss your brother. Jessiah, you respect people's boundaries. You don't touch private parts. Jessiah, you can hug and things like that. You can give high fives. If you love your friend, you can give high fives. Like, nobody had these conversations. This isn't appropriate. That is not appropriate. Nobody should be touching this area. Nobody should be touching that area. You shouldn't be touching that area of another person, my no-no zones. Stuff like that. Nobody had those conversations. So we need to start having these conversations and forming that open communication too, which is something I had to watch on, because I know this notion of, if you, make your child feel shame or punish or that kind of thing, they're not going to be they're not going to feel comfortable opening up to you. So I'm reminding myself to chill, but address it, but in a calm manner, right? Yeah, so we can do it. We can do it. And I would say, with my life journey, I've been led to, I made the face because of my mind. The title Christian has such a negative connotation these days, even with my own self. I don't go to church currently. I haven't gone to church for a little bit. I tried when I moved to Ohio, but it's just the motions of it all. It's just feels so empty, rather than really connecting with God's source. For my life experiences, is more effective. But still, ideally, I would love to find a church where I feel is authentic in every aspect. No church will be perfect, because there's no perfect person. But excuse me, the congestion. My voice is getting lower and lower. But ideally, I would love to find a church one day. But that's not the time right now for me. So, but yeah, so I just wanted to come in here and talk about this. We can do it. We can have these conversations. We can even sit with ourselves and go through the experiences we had. Shame is of the devil, literally. Shame is of whatever. If you don't believe in the devil, shame is of negative energy. I don't know. Shame is only enslaves you. There is no reason why a person should live in shame for the experiences they had as a child. No. You can talk to someone, a safe person, and open up to them. A safe person now. Because people who don't want to address their own shadows, they're going to look at you like, oh my gosh, that happened to me as well. I don't even want to be specific because I don't want to start drama, but there was a parent I opened up to and they made it about themselves. Called us heathen children and stuff like that. But I'm good, because I don't live under the weight of that shame anymore. So, and you don't deserve to live under the weight of this. You deserve to be free from the weight of that shame. And I wish this would be a trend, and I'm praying this will be a trend. a long-lasting trend, a trend that lasts every generation. This trend, you know how like 80s music, not 80s music, 80s fashion always pops up every generation, right? Something to do with 80s fashion. I don't know, but yeah, like the trend of healing, the trend of not letting cycles be repeated, negative cycles be repeated with your own children. You know, let's lead our next generations into more emotional stability, right? And, you know, they say that most limitations are of the mind. And definitely when you refuse to heal from trauma, it gives major limitations. Just imagine the gifts we're giving our children to teach them not to limit themselves by living in shame, and even ourselves to take those limitations off, those shackles off of ourselves. You know, we're worth it. They're worth it. You're worth it. Anyways, I hope my words have helped. And I have so much understanding and love out there for those who don't give up on themselves. And those that don't give up, don't lose hope. Don't lose hope. No matter how long it takes you, you can work through anything. Much love, Jessiah. Bye, Jessiah Voné.